Does that mean it's recording?
Yeah, you're recording.
Okay.
Yeah, ISO recording.
This is going to go in my behind the scenes. Welcome back to the Chasing the Truth. I'm your host, Kristen Campos, and we have
Matt Choi.
Matt Choi today. I am so excited for today. Matt, I think I've known you now for like 2.5 years, 3 years.
I feel like maybe longer. Since I've lived in Austin almost like 3 years.
Really?
I feel like it's kind of crazy to think about that. I was like for you, and I feel like I've known you longer than your sister, obviously.
For sure, yeah.
But probably like 3, maybe 2.5 really like having like dialogue and having a friendship.
Yeah, like a friendship for
Yeah.
sure. Let's give the people a little backstory of like how we met.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to talk about your story just over time. And also, I was so excited about today because I'm just like proud of you as a friend, and I just like want to share your story with the world, especially over like the last year and who you've become as like a friend, and then just as a man. And so a little backstory on how we met or how I saw you. I just remember I'm not a runner. I apologize to the running community, but I knew you were a runner in the influencing space, and we met at the gym.
Yeah.
And I just remember saying like, he's so nice to everyone. And of course you're so tall, right? So you're like saying hi to everybody like you're a politician almost.
Oh no, that's a lot of pressure.
No. And then I think it was like at a collective community workout that we're like all siblings. Your brother Anthony was there. So
Yeah.
for reference, for the audience, Matt has an older brother named Anthony, and I'm the older sibling, and I have a younger sister named Vanessa. So there's kind of like this dialogue of sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
And then we had the little sibling rivalry that we actually had playing different events and stuff. And I think that's how our friendship kind of started.
I agree. I think the first time you and I actually met, I think you kindly came up to me at Collective South and were just like, "Hey, I've seen you at the gym," and you introduced yourself, and
Yeah.
then that was like the first kind of like proper intro.
Yeah.
And then to your point, we had like our actual sibling rivalry, like the competition, which was super fun with the Lancaster brothers and then the Graham brothers. And that was just super fun. Just kind of, I think anytime you put yourself in like a sporting environment, a competitive environment, which for all of us, I think it's it's a fun thing.
It's a fun thing, yeah. And well, for reference for the audience, we would just play like putt-putt, or I think we did bowling.
We did bowling, putt-putt, pickleball.
Pickleball, yes. The older siblings want the pickleball one.
Yeah. We had some good competition. It was
good.
fun.
It was fun. Yeah, we
is.
got to run that one back.
Yeah.
But besides that, your journey just as a person, and then becoming an influencer, and then where you are today. Tell us a little bit about that, like who you were before. I know you've done so many podcasts, but we're going to come at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, but
I actually feel a little rusty in my podcast game.
Good.
To be honest, I haven't been it's been a little while since I've been on a pod, but yeah, I mean, my backstory, I'm Korean American. I grew up in the New Jersey, New York area. My parents split when I was super young. Moved around as a kid a lot, lived in Jersey and then Vegas and Maryland, and I moved to Austin about 4 years ago. And I think sport was something that really was like ingrained in me young. I think I gravitated towards sports a lot. It's kind of like growing up with a single mom, it's where I kind of found like male role models and mentors and coaches that I found that they ended up kind of being like the male role model in my lives. And then I ended up playing in college, playing football throughout high school, college, and that was like a big part of my identity, being an athlete. And then I got into corporate America, and then I came to Austin, and I'm kind of backtracking, but I came to Austin 4 years ago. And then even before I got here, though, I was still doing content, and I was really into the fitness industry. I was a personal trainer at the time. And that moment, figuring out the training world and then content, is really what inspired me to come to Austin, because I felt like that was like there's like a good mix of that here, right? Like wellness is massive. At the time, there was creators here, not as many as there are now, but there was a ton of new creators coming to Austin. And yeah, over the past couple of years, it's kind of like what I've done for work. I don't think that that's like fully my identity, but it's obviously when people ask you like what you do for work, I'm always like, yeah, I'm in media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you explain it? Yeah.
Yeah, like I think influencer gets like I don't know, there's like a bad connotation with influencers, which I am an influencer in a way. But I just would say that I run a media company.
Do you ever feel like your identity ever got caught up in being an influencer at one point?
I don't think I don't know if it was being an influencer. I think it more in just self. Right? Like I don't think I ever was like not as much as I was consumed as being a football player. Like I don't think I got consumed in being an influencer. It was just like maybe I just got consumed into like the running and fitness as a whole and then like trying to improve self. And I think that journey of self was probably more of what I was consumed in.
Interesting. Did you ever have a transition? I know that a lot of athletes, whether you've played, I mean, I feel like the natural progression of anybody that played at the high school level, it's like, okay, well, I graduated from high school and you can leave that behind. But if you ever played a collegiate sport or even at the professional level, there's usually a point of transition where you're kind of like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with my life. Did you ever feel that, or did you quickly find influencing right after that and that kind of just helped you?
No, I mean, I definitely had that. The first job I worked right out of school, it wasn't like a dream job. It was definitely,
was it?
I worked at this company called Shred It, which dealt with like
yeah.
document destruction, like paper destruction, which like, in Maryland, and it's a Fortune 500 company. It's massive. But it's a service company, right? Like you go to hospitals and law offices and dental practitioners and you're getting rid of
Were you
anything.
on the sales side, or
No, I was on the kind of sales and management side.
Okay.
It's interesting. The position I had was a manager in training, which basically meant that you did a little bit of everything from the ops side, from the management side, and then on the sales side. And then basically after 2 years of training, like the goal is that you kind of identify which side of the business you want to play on. And then from there, it's like kind of like they're fast track into getting you to move up the corporate ladder. And at the time, I'm like, all right, this sounds cool, like right out of school, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I don't know. I just like, I kind of was just checking the box. Like right after school, I'm like,
Right.
all right, I'm not going to go and like progress playing sport after college. So like as an Asian, my Asian mom was like, all right, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to go, like, you're going to go abroad, you're going to travel, you're going to work. Like, and I felt like the checking of the box was like, find a job, start your career, figure out, at that point you're 24, 25. It's like your first job isn't going to be your last job,
Right.
And that was kind of my mentality. And I just like, I had a job before I walked for graduation and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this. And I learned a ton at that job, even though I knew it wasn't going to be the end all be all for me. I think I learned a lot about leadership and humility because a lot of servant leadership in that job. So there's parts of that job where, so it's a service company. So we deal with going to businesses and picking up their quote unquote paper to destroy. But the people that are doing this are drivers. And a lot of them are not college graduates. They might have a history in some type of, not criminal history, but they might have the cleanest record.
Misdemeanor.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think, so when you're working with that kind of blue collar worker, like I was in the truck with them. So I would go service the companies that we were working with, and I would be put on a route with these drivers. And at that time, I didn't really identify like, damn, like what am I going to learn from this? But even being able to talk and to get to know people who were, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, like they were 20 years older than me. And I'm over here just like a young, fresh kid out of college, like, all right, like, why am I in a truck right now?
Right. Yeah.
And I think obviously in the present, you're questioning those things. But I think in the long term, when I started realizing like, oh, the bigger picture here is like, yeah, even though you are way more like,
You had bigger aspirations.
correct. I had more credentials than the job that I was doing.
Right.
But it's also being willing to do the job, even though you're more than qualified for. And I think that then taught me that no matter who's in your organization, no matter who you bring on your team, like everyone has a role, and then you have to make their role feel like that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing was the biggest lesson I learned from that job, that I then just started thinking about, like anyone that I bring onto my team that helps me with content, that helps me with media, to them it might seem like a low level task, but it's like, no, we have to make that feel like the most important thing.
Yeah. You know, I read this book. I forget the actual name, but it's a yellow book and it's about hospitality. And I had sent it to all of my real estate agents at one point as like their book of the year. And in it, it's about a restaurant owner, and it was the number one restaurant in New York. And you know, they interview him and ask like why or what did you do to get it to this position? I don't know if you've read that book before.
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it. It's like something about it's
Phenomenal
hospitality
book.
something, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's similar to what you're saying in that like even the chefs that come with the highest credentials, he puts them in the kitchen with a dishwasher, right? And you're like, with a dishwasher, like I'm the chef, like I come from, and it's just having that like spirit of humility that also just it shows up in your food. It shows up in your work, right? It will show up later on in life. And what a huge lesson to have that now at your age, you can look back and say, yeah, I served at this point and I learned so much from that first job to what you do now. What, in what ways and what skills do you carry into being an influencer now
From that
from
job?
that job?
I think it's funny. I think something that people wouldn't think, but it's like it's finding relatability with people. Right? Like when you think about content, like you're thinking about like when I first started making content about running, it's like even me sharing that I wasn't a runner, then making content around that relates to newer runners, people
Right.
that haven't always ran. In the same way, in that job, it's relating to these people, like the struggles that they're going through.
Right.
Right. So when I think about content, it's like, all right, like, what do I think that someone that is new into running, what are they struggling with? And then how do I talk to that person in that way? And I think that was something where when you're relating with people that like, I didn't have anything in common with these people. These
Yeah.
people were parents. They had kids. Like they're like, I'm going to work out after work. They're going to pick up their kids. Like there weren't many things that like we found in common, but still having the ability to listen, right? And like, just like to hear what people are dealing with, right? And obviously in that capacity, like they're dealing with stuff, but they have to still do their job.
Yeah.
And I think when I thought about content from that same way, it's like, all right, how do I serve people in a way that they can get value out of the thing that I'm trying to do myself? In that case, it was running. And part of my journey was like, I just wanted to document like how I was learning this new skill and like what was happening along the way, like the injuries and the setbacks
Yeah.
and the small successes of like, hitting a PR or whatever it is. Like I thought content was an easy way to just document like what I was doing myself and then sharing that to the world. But a lot of that came through that relatability of like, how do you serve the issues that someone might be dealing with? Because that might be able to give you ideas for the content.
Do you think that you were always wired to be servant-hearted and like look for that? Or did that just come over time?
I don't know. I feel like I think moving around as a kid a lot allowed me to realize like what it was like to be served. Because like when you're the new kid, yeah, like the teachers sometimes try to like put you into contact with like kids that you might like get along with. And some teachers don't do that. But like I think naturally there's an effect of like feeling like you're the odd man out and then wanting to feel like welcomed.
Right.
And I think from moving a lot and then being on a lot of teams and then having to like integrate with new people, maybe that gave me that heart of like not wanting someone to feel like they're left out.
Yeah.
Right?
I will say that just your whole platform, you've just as a friend, I've seen you just steward it so well. But whenever we're hanging out, whether it's like at church or game night or whatever, you have an awareness of seeing who is maybe feeling like they're left out, or maybe they're like not a part of the conversation, and you're the person that strikes up the conversation with that person. And that's amazing to see as a friend, right? Because you're just always wanting to include everybody, and I guess that's where your heart comes from.
Yeah, I mean,
Growing up.
I think there's elements of that when, yeah, I think so. I think about a lot about like my childhood and me and my brother talk about that often of like how maybe that's shaped us, but then also maybe left like some, not even trauma, but like it leaves memories of things that like, yeah, maybe that things that you desired that you didn't have to deal with.
Right.
But then equally, some of those things or those weaknesses end up being strengths.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you start to utilize that and you don't realize, like for me, it comes easy. So I don't realize that like, oh, but like when I had to move and go to a new middle school or new elementary school, all those times I was uncomfortable and nervous in those moments because I'm like, damn, like I have to make new friends again.
Right.
But then obviously as you keep doing that, as you get older, it's like an analogy with working out. It's like you callous yourself,
Yeah.
like mentally, and then even from a fitness standpoint, physically, like the more you train, the more you run, the more you go to the gym, like you get more comfortable in that environment. And for me and my brother, I think both of us, like meeting new people, networking, making people feel like welcome. I think it's become so natural because we were the person that was feeling that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So-
I call it maximizing your capacity. Like, you know, it's kind of like a muscle that you grow over time. Like you continue to just like maximize your capacity to handle things and maximize your capacity to put yourself in a new situation every time. So now when you put yourself in new situations, it's not a shocker.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, pivoting back to your story and making the move into being a content creator, because that was not expected. It's not like, I remember you saying, it's not like you desire to be this like ultra marathoner or you just liked running as a hobby.
Yeah.
And then it happened to be COVID, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Kristen, like, I never ran, like, before 4 years ago, I never really ran. Like,
4 years ago just feels like yesterday.
I agree. Maybe it's 5 years ago because 4 years ago, I moved to Austin. And then the year prior, I was running during the pandemic at my mom's, when I was living at my mom's house. But I never had a thought of, like, I'm going to go be, like, an ultra marathoner or a marathoner. It just, like, one thing led to another. I definitely have a little bit of, like, an obsessive personality. And, like, when I find something that becomes a challenge, it's, like, that hunger. It's, like, the quest to try to, like, solve that problem, you know?
Right.
And I think that's what running was. It's just, like, I don't know. Like, I started watching other people online, creators that I was like, damn, like, they're trying their first marathon. And I wonder, like, how challenging is that? You know? And for whatever reason, the running, it just, like... Yeah, I think it can, for someone that's obsessive, it can feed into, it's easy to feed into that.
Right.
And I think one thing led to another where I was like, all right, I'm just going to try my first marathon. And I failed. And then months later, I tried it again and I got it done on my 26th birthday. And then from there, I was like, oh, like there's an actual strategy on how to do this. No different than in business or in fitness in general. Like there's practical strategies that you can implement to perform better.
Right.
And when I unlocked that, then I was like, all right, well, like how far can one actually go? And then you just, then you have to do some research and you're like, okay, well, there's like this girl, Courtney DeWalter, and she does 100-mile races. And there's this guy, David Goggins, who does 200-mile races. And I'm leaving out so many other legendary ultramarathoners and athletes, but there's really special humans in this world that have unlocked some physical and mental barriers that have then allowed other people to realize that they could do the same.
Yeah.
And I think that story itself, not people being special, but just humans pushing the barrier of what people think is possible, which then allows other people to do the same. And I think I'm just that. Like, I'm not special in that way physically. I just found that I just got obsessed enough where I saw someone else doing it. And I just said to myself, like, it's doable.
Right.
So, like, why not try?
Yeah.
And, like, that's been my journey in anything I've ever done physically from a business standpoint. And I just have that mentality that, like, yeah, like, there's, like, nothing in this world is impossible. So all we have to do is try. And then along trying, you're going to fail. And if you're okay with the failing, then literally anything is possible. Like, I really think that people are limitless, but you have to be willing to fail because it's not going to just be like a linear progression to success.
So would you say that your next move is to become a professional golfer at your age?
Mm.
I feel like you've picked up a new sport lately.
Yo.
And I've recently become obsessed.
This is
You're like 4 years ago, I didn't run. Well,
Correct.
You can do the same with golf now.
The funny thing with golf, Kristen, is that I was telling Vanessa this, is like all my buddies at home golf.
Interesting.
Like, they're into it. They've been into it for years. And I was always like, they were always like, yo, come play 18. I would always say yes. But I never had my own clubs. Like, I never want, like, I was like kind of broke. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to spend money on clubs. Like, I'm not going to drop $3,000, $2,000 on clubs. So I always just played with hand-me-downs. But the thing is, and I've realized this getting fitted for golf clubs, like when clubs aren't fitted for you based on your arm length, based on your body, you have to then change the way that you hit the ball. And because of that, I never really invested into lessons. I just kind of watched a couple videos, get some pointers from my
swinging
friends.
a baseball bat. You're
Correct.
Like,
I was like, I could do it. Like I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
But when you do that, like when you go play 18, I started realizing like when I would do this with my friends years ago, I'm like, I don't have the mental focus to stay stimulated in this activity. Like I could go run 30 hours and for whatever reason not lose my focus. But in golf, I struggle to play 18 holes because if I'm not hitting well, I'm not getting enough dopamine. Yeah, like it's like I get in like it's frustrating. So then by hole 12 or 13, I'm like, all right, like I'm just gonna like I'm hitting the ball so like crappy that I'm not focused anymore. So it was challenging me.
Fun.
Correct. It's just not enjoyable to be out there. And then obviously a couple months ago, I ended up like I told Vanessa, I'm like, all right, and Vanessa is Kristen's sister, if people don't know. I was like, yo, I'm gonna go get fitted. And I'm gonna just invest it. Like I'm just gonna put money in. I'm gonna invest into this activity, and with that investment the return on investment is based on how much effort I put into it. Right? Similar with running. It's like you get a pair of running shoes. You have to run though. You can't just get running shoes and let them get dusty. And now to your point, I don't know. I mean, obviously the goal is not to be professional, but like I have a desire to improve in this sport.
Yeah.
And that desire now, it looks like, going to the range 3 times a week and looking up YouTube videos and texting your sister, like, what are your thoughts on this? And being a student, truly.
Yeah.
And I think above all else, I always say this, like, I think I was such a poor student in school. And now I want to live until I'm dead being a student forever. And whether that means in business or in relationships or in a sport or just like a hobby on the side, it's like, like I like the fact that I don't know things in this thing. And like, I'm curious to learn. It's a new challenge.
Yeah.
And it definitely intrigues me now. And I've definitely have the bug and I guess we'll see how long that fire is lit.
Like you said, when you hit a golf ball, I don't play golf. My sister, for those of y'all that don't know, she played in college.
She's a beast.
And she's still active in the golf world now. But so whenever I would go out there, I'm like, I'm just kind of just hanging. But when you hit the ball and it's like that crispy, like, you're like, that's the exactly what you said, dopamine hit. And you're like, yes. And then you want to do it again.
You just need a few of those to keep you going, dude. I'm like, when I go to the range,
I'm addicted.
I just need a few of those, and I'm like, dang, I'll stay out here. Let me go get another bucket. Like,
yes,
and it's to your point. Like in running, it's different. Like that dopamine, it's like maybe you get the runner's high, and like you're feeling it. It's like it's a little bit more. It's enduring. Like you're enduring that for a longer period of time because you're just physically moving. Whereas in golf, like you're getting a little dosage of that. It's like a little hit every time you swing the club and you hit it well. But when you don't, it's easy to kind of get into like a hole of like, I'm like, today's an awful day. Like, I feel like I'm not hitting the ball well. Like, it's like, I don't know. I think it's easy to get spiraled down. But when you do get those not perfect swings and like you hit the sweet spot, it does something mentally. You're like, let me go play,
I think it's, just having seen my sister go through learning golf all her life and just being a student of that. And my dad was her coach for a time as well, majority of her life. And looking back, it's like the best sport that you can apply. I mean, I'm sure you can apply a ton of sports to life, but just being able to keep your emotions even keel throughout the entire 18 holes, regardless of what happens, I'm like, that is a challenge in and of itself, And my sister, I feel like she's mastered that now. But there were times when she was like 9 years old and it was, I don't know, a couple holes, and those emotions were just high and low. I'm like, I can't do this. Like for the rest of her life, I don't know if I could do this in support. But no,
it's a frustrating
thing.
Like
a new little like thing to accomplish for you, right? Like just a ground.
Like I think I 100%. Like it's definitely like a mini obsession now, like kind of like a side project.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that like I think to when you asked me, like obviously playing 4 years ago, because people ask me like, is this like the first time you've played? Like, no, like I've played 18 a lot. But like
Yeah.
I've done 18 really poorly. Like I think for me right now, the best strategy is to continue to, well, one, I'm going to get lessons soon and maybe Vanessa will help me with that.
Yeah.
But like playing 9 holes. Cause I think for me, like I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. Like I think I can mentally focus for 9 holes to really stay locked in. And like I want to crave the back half. Like I don't want to feel like I'm like dreading to be out there. Cause low key, I mean, your sister knows like, yo, playing 18, if you're not that good, like you might be out there for 4.5 hours.
We all know that you're all about those UV rays.
Yo, Kristen, I'm scared out there. I'm have to play after 4 p.m.
This man, if we invite him to play pickleball or something, he's like, what's the UV rays right now? I'm like, dude.
Yes, I'm very sensitive to the sun. So that also, like, I'm going to
understand.
go out there with long sleeves and a bucket hat and sunglasses, like
Truly.
all the stuff.
Truly, that's so funny. My other question for you that I really wanted to talk about, because I feel like that's what we really bond on even now, is your faith.
Yeah.
And I would argue that maybe even about a year ago, is kind of when like a shift happened for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Where did that happen for you? And I know that there's some mentors in your life or a mentor in your life that kind of redirected you in a way as well.
Yeah, I think my journey with faith has been a beautiful thing. Definitely like a season of just like being on fire and then a season of just kind of it not being a priority. I grew up in the church and my grandma was like kind of the one that stewarded that in me and my brother's lives. And like my family in general isn't like, I don't know, faith hasn't always been like a priority, but my grandma was like a very devout Christian. And that was like the first time when I actually saw someone like truly like spending time with the Lord. Like anytime my grandma would live with me, my brother and my mom, like she'd be up at like 3:30 in the morning with her Bible, praying, crying, like truly spending time with the Lord in prayer and in just in those kind of like in those dark hours, you know? And I saw that as a kid and I'm like, damn, like that's like an amazing discipline, you know? And my grandma would bring me and my brother to churches, and these be like a lot of Korean churches. And I think throughout that season, there'd just be moments where I think at that age, I was kind of like, all right, this is like a cool way to like meet people. Like I think I believed that there was a God, but I didn't have a true relationship with Jesus. And I think that didn't actually happen until probably like about a year and a half ago, where like I actually surrendered in my heart. Because there's been moments even during the pandemic, like I started like listening to like different sermons. Because like I was in and out of the church in high school. In college, I would go here and there, but very rarely. And even after college, like I was kind of just living in a worldly way. Like it wasn't that I didn't accept Christ or that I didn't accept God. It's just that it wasn't a priority, you know?
Right.
And like I just thought, like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out on my own. I'm gonna just do it
You're like,
my
I know
way.
you're there, God, but
Yeah,
we're doing some things.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it my way, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that if I think about a moment, there was 2 years ago when I went to Korea, and this is like the first time I was back in Korea for like 20 years. And there was a gentleman I met there because his son had followed me, and I'd made all these plans to run the length of Korea. This is in 2023. And this kid's father, he was a really well-known hip hop artist and also philanthropist in Korea. And like he raised a ton of money for hospitals and building homes in Korea in lower economic areas. And I didn't know who this man was. But like in Korea, he's like
A big deal.
a big deal, like
Yeah.
a pops. Like he's like literally in the 90s was like equivalent to like a pop star. Like how people look at like BTS is kind of like how people looked at him back in the early days of like in the 90s and 2000s in hip hop. And he was just such I don't know, he's a man of many few words, but the way he lives speaks volumes. And I just remember him just being very gracious with his time. And the first time he came and he came to a shakeout run that I did like 2 days before the run started. And that was like the first time I got to meet him. And once again, when I met him, I didn't know who this man was. Mind you, people in Korea would be like, Sean, like, I want to
Yeah.
take pictures with you and all this. And like, and I'm over here just like so oblivious, like not knowing that this man is like, is not even that he's popular, but it's just like he's somebody, you know? And I think that was kind of a refreshing thing even for him, like me almost being oblivious to that and just treating him just like a human. And he was doing the same to me, you know? And the day of the challenge, he came and got us coffee. And he just was like sending us off, and he grew up in Guam, so he spoke English well. So he was bilingual. He spoke Korean well and English well. So it was obviously a great way for us to connect. 'Cause my Korean is like very poor, so it's like I couldn't really speak to him in Korean. But I say this to say that like I didn't really know the stuff that he had done that morning on the start of the challenge. He was sharing to me like how he like raised 50 million to build a children's hospital for the kids with disabilities. And that how his next project was like for the Lou Gehrig disease, and how he's working on a second hospital, and like all these things. And he was like, "Yo, I'd love for you to come and check out the hospital once you're done with the challenge." I'm like, "Absolutely." And he was like, "Yo, like, do you guys need anything before you guys head out?" All this stuff. And I was like, "No, I mean, we're kind of looking for maybe a little bit more nutrition." And he got us connected with Trek, which is a bike company, to get us another bike to help us like record the content for it. And he was just like literally just doing all this out of the kindness of his heart. And he did that, and he came to run with us that day.
He ran with you?
He ran. He's in really good shape. Like he's this year he's running all 7 world majors this year.
That's incredible.
And he came and met us at like 30 kilometers. So we're like almost like halfway done with the day, but he ran 30K with me. Like we ran 60K on the first day, and he basically ran the back half of it with me after he went to church. And he finished that run, and then we went to get dinner after in this small little town in Korea. And at that point, we were in this small town, and I didn't realize the gravity that he had until the ladies that were serving us were like starstruck. They were like, first we had all these cameras with us, and they were like, and they said like in Korean, they were like, "Is this Jinu Sean?" And Sean is his name, but Jinu was his like co-star, like his partner. And then he was like, yeah, and like they were like starstruck. They like wanted pictures and all this stuff. And I say all to say just to give context, but by the end of that challenge, I get back to Korea, and he's messaging us, making sure that we're doing okay along the trip, and he's like following along. But when I get back to Korea, I had like a lot of pain in my foot, and like I was like, I don't know, I couldn't really put a lot of pressure on it. I couldn't really run that much, and I wanted to just get it checked out. And literally the second day I got back, he was like, yeah, like let me know when you're free. Like go to my PT. And he got me to the PT, and they looked at all of it structured, and they're like, yeah, we don't really know. Like you're gonna have to get an X-ray. I'm like, okay, word. But they didn't think it was crazy, but they were like, to be safe, you might want to get an X-ray. He then takes me the next day to his doctor, which is like a sports performance doctor that a lot of athletes in Korea go to. And they were like, yeah, we'll get an X-ray done, all this stuff. And he just covered all this stuff. Cause like literally, obviously I'm coming there as a foreigner. I don't have insurance. Like I don't have medical covered, but he paid for all of it. And a couple of days later, his son wanted to run with me. And I was like, all right, good thing the X-ray came back negative. I was fine. It was just like, there's a lot of inflammation.
Overstressed,
yeah. And a couple of days later, I go to meet up with his kid, and his kid couldn't meet up because he had like a track practice, but his friends met up with me and we ran. So his kid was a little like bummed out, but it was fine. But before that run, he brought me to the children's hospital, and there was a wall because he basically had raised a lot of money through doing endurance events. He met a kid in 2021 that was getting pushed by his father because he had disability. And from that race, he then had this inspiration to then start raising money for kids that didn't have the opportunity and had disabilities that weren't able to move. And in Korea, it's kind of like, not that it's like frowned upon, but like parents almost get looked at a little bit differently when their kids have disabilities because, I don't know, in Korea, a lot of it, like there's like a status around like what you do, like what your kids are going to end up doing, and like just the status of like worldly things.
I'm going to Egypt for a missions trip.
Correct.
For children with special needs in general, but that's kind of the same feeling, is that it almost brings a family shame.
Correct.
And we do everything we can to reverse that. It sounds like that's what he took on.
Literally. And like there's not many facilities for kids with disability in Korea. So the one that he built was like solely for kids with disabilities. So there's like, it was a massive building. He showed us the wall, but when we parked in the garage and we went up the elevator, and he was like, guys, here I'm as popular as BTS. And if you don't know BTS, it's a massive K-pop group. Like they're global, like massively popular. But as soon as you walked in, like all the people that work there, the parents, like they start looking and they're like, that's Sean. And like so many of them came to want to take pictures with him, to give him a hug, to just say thank you. for building this facility for our kids, because a lot of parents don't have hope that their kids can get the type of treatment that they need. And he then showed me, he was touring us to the hospital, and he showed me this wall that had all of the races that he had done in the past 4 years to raise the money for this hospital.
Wow.
And every single donation from the people that had put money in for this foundation was on this wall. And it was amazing to see that, like, this man was using his talent and his gift to, like, serve a bigger purpose. And that was the one moment that I then thought about, and my brother mentioned this to me. It's in the book of Matthew, the parable of talents. I believe it's Matthew chapter 25, verse 14, where there's a parable of talents where there's three men that get three different talents, one with 5, one with 3, one with 1. And what they each do with it is different. The one with 5 doubles it and gets 10. The one with 3 doubles it and gets 6. And the one with 1 was so afraid to lose it that he hid it, he buried it until his master came back, and then he was going to give him what he had buried, which was, it didn't grow in any value. And my brother was like, looking at me and looking at Sean, he was like, yo, like, she's like, Sean's someone that has 5 talents and is doubling it. And he's like, Matt, like, you're doing the same with what you've been given, and maybe you're doubled your 2 talents, but it made me challenge myself and think, like, dang, like, but like, what does that look like for me to, like, do what Sean's doing? And not from a place of feeling like envious, but just truly inspired that, like, dang, what this man is doing in his life, to then sacrifice the things from a worldly perspective, things from a status perspective, and truly giving it to other people to benefit them, really inspired my heart. And I met with him one more time before I left, and this is going to all come back to the question that you originally asked me. First of all, when he took me one of the PT practices, there was this jacket he was wearing that I really wanted.
So he was swaggy.
He was swaggy. He was drip. He had drip. And there was this North Face jacket that was it had like mountains on it, and had the Korean flag in it. And it was actually the South Korean Olympic jacket that North Face branded. And I was like, Sean, I was like, where's that jacket from? And he was like, he works at North Face, and he's like an ambassador. And he's like, oh, this is like limited edition. It was like for the athletes. And I was like, yo, is there any extra? And he was like, he's like, I don't know, but let me find out. And obviously at that point, I wasn't really expecting it.
Yeah.
But when we were in the car, he says, guess what? My North Face people told me that there's actually one more jacket left, and it's in a size large. And I was like, dang, I'm a size large. And he's like, all right. He's like, I'll get it for you before you go home. And I was like, wow, like, what a blessing. Like, you know, like, what are the odds? So I met with him the day before I left Korea. We went to a Starbucks. We got coffee. He brought me that jacket. He gifted me that jacket. And I was so hyped.
Amazing.
And we just like kind of just sat there and we chatted. And I feel like me and him are very similar. Like, I feel like when I've told you before that I feel like I'm more introverted than extroverted. Like, in moments where I feel like there's not needing to be dialogue, sometimes I'll just sit and just like, you just kind of soak in the moment, you know? And you think about questions that you might want to ask, or you just kind of vibe. And there were some moments in that convo where I was like, yeah, like there was definitely some moments of silence, me asking him questions also, but there was just like time to just like kind of sit in that space. And I felt like the Holy Spirit was moving in that conversation. And I had asked Sean right before we had kind of finished up, I was like, Sean, like, you know, it's been amazing to see like all that you've done. And I've been inspired by like, one, the hospital, and like how like you're serving a bigger purpose than just yourself. And I was like, what advice would you have for me? And this is in November of 2023. He goes, your brother said next time you guys come to Korea, like you guys want to go to church. He says, my only advice is that like you need to find God. Like, you need to build a relationship with the Lord. He says, all the things that I've done are not of my strength. He's like, the Lord has put these opportunities and he's given me the strength to do all these things, whether it's the hospital and all these things, right? And it's funny because even for me, Kristen, like I heard that, but it didn't fully like register to me. Like, I'm like, yeah, like I was like, I responded, I'm like, of course, like next time we're here, like we'd love to go to church, right?
And for context for the audience, I think at that point, because I knew Anthony really well as well, and we would go to church events together and just go out, and a lot of it was based on like the Christian community here in Austin with our relationship with Anthony, my relationship with Anthony. And so interesting that he kind of like led that, and planted a seed.
Truly. And yeah, I think he planted a seed on that day. This is like the end of November. And it's funny how the Lord works. And I think also how, in a way, like Satan could work as well. And fast forward to your original question of like the past year and what that's looked like for me in my life. I think, yeah, like coming up almost a year ago till now, which is funny because that was a year ago from that conversation. You know, I've run the New York City Marathon, and if people don't know, like, you know, I ran and I had 2 people on e-bikes filming me for content. And then that became like massive news to the point where like, yeah, it impacted my reputation and my brand online. And then like, even from a business standpoint, like partners that I had that obviously with bad publicity, it's like not a good look for brands as well. And I think in that season for me, it was a moment of reflection of just, yeah, like where in my life am I maybe selfish, and where in my life am I not putting what is the actual priority first? And I thought about that often during that season of just like getting my worldly reputation tarnished, and then thinking back to that conversation with Sean about how little I listened to the advice. And that piece was probably what hit me the most, because when, you know, there's that old saying of like, smart people learn from their mistakes, wise people learn from others. And I just chose not to hear someone's feedback to truly like do something about it, right? I heard it, but I didn't really act on it, right? But then I think about that quote of like, yeah, smart people learn from their mistakes. So like, it almost felt like I could have skipped a couple steps, but I was like, Lord, let me just, I guess, once again, come back to my flesh.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like I made a mistake then, and I had to learn from my own mistake. But it all kind of reflects back to that conversation. And I think, to then answer your question, like the past year, it's just been me developing and building a relationship with Jesus, and truly figuring out what that looks like for me. And I think it is a level of surrender from the heart, and it's surrendering my fleshly desires of like business and money and fame and followers and status, right? And it's realizing that the only thing that actually matters is having a relationship with the Lord. And I think that in the past year has then, yeah, it's brought me closer to Scripture. It's brought me closer to the Lord in multiple different ways, whether it's through worship or church community, or just having a hunger to get into the Word. And I think if New York City doesn't happen, I don't know if like I would sit here and have a level of humility to be like, yeah, like I'm going to surrender to a bigger thing than me, right? Because I think as humans, it's easy when you're kind of climbing the ladder of worldly success to just be like, yo, like, why do I need to surrender? Like, it's like, I'm doing well on my own, you know?
Well, and to your point, I think in the beginning when we talked about like not having a true relationship with Jesus, prior to that, you knew that there was a God, but you're like, I got it. Like, I can do this on my own. And quite frankly, you could say, I mean, obviously God was in all of it when we look back, but as you built your influencer journey and having all the followers and everything, you're like, I built this on my back, you know? And it was almost as if like that had to be just interrupted a little bit I think about, Forrest Frank.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with him and his music and just happy thoughts, right? But also like the person that he is. And I don't know if you know his story, but he was part of a group called Surfaces. It was him and another guy. So
I didn't know that, but I like Surfaces too.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
that was him. And talks about in his story just how he was climbing that like secular music and it was clean music. Like I actually love listening to it because it never had any like cuss words or anything. It was never dirty. So it was fun music, but it was just normal topics about Christ, right?
Right.
And he said the Holy Spirit told him to say no to the arenas, to say no to, and I'm like, dang, because I remember, the summers listening to Sheesh, like on Lake Travis and thinking like he was climbing this ladder, and then we're like, what happened to Surfaces? I guess they haven't put out any music lately. And that was him really like, he's like, God, just take it all away. If it, for some reason you're saying no, so I'm saying no and take it all away. And then now, like, Forrest Frank.
Yeah.
And how much he's blown up and like what he's done to glorify God's kingdom. And even now, he still says like, God, if you want me to keep playing in arenas, like make it happen. But if you want me to stop, like that's great. Like I think about it even in my own self, like having built a business, and I'm like, God, like, can you be so daring to say, if even if you took it all away, like I just want you, like everything,
Yeah.
you know, I would be okay, and I would just want you, you know, and almost as if like when you came to that point in after the marathon happened, like you had the followers, like you had the fame, you had the limelight, right? But in essence, it's like, God, you can take it all away. And it was kind of like a little taste of that as well. And so you're living proof of an example of like, that is really all you need. Because I think of all of these I say young kids because I'm so much older, but
Much older.
yeah. Well, like to like the newer little like influencers that are trying to be influency here in Austin,
Yeah.
you know, and they
Yeah.
see you and they're like, you're so cool. But if they only knew that's not the most significant thing in the world,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I mean, I think about that often too of like, yeah, like what does that look like to glorify the Lord or to further the kingdom? And obviously even from a social landscape, like the responsibility as a believer to like figure out like, yeah, like what that looks like, right? And I think to your point, yeah, like I think it's easy to when you don't have Christ as like your priority, and when that's not the most important thing, it's easy to find these other outlets to be like, yo, like I'm gonna fill it with like, yeah, making more viral content to make more money or to grow more followers or to fill in the blank with whatever like worldly thing there is. And I think, yeah, that's definitely also been on my heart of like what that looks like. And I think it's actually an amazing story what you shared about Forrest. I didn't know that he was part of services, which is actually makes a lot of sense because like kind of the flow is similar, but now obviously so much of Forrest's lyrical talent is obviously gospel driven. But I think to your point of even that season for me after New York, it was like I had to go through like a refinement process. And part of that was like, yeah, looking at what I was doing and what I was putting on a pedestal and like the way that I was living and how far that was from Christ. And it wasn't until I then opened up scripture and then started to like even consume The Chosen and just like take and listen to different things that weren't like the Daily Stoic, that wasn't entrepreneurs, that wasn't self-help ideologies. And it then allowed me to see so clearly like how I was not living like a disciple of Christ, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
Well,
I needed that.
Because I think, you know, self-help can be a religion.
100%.
And it's great. Like I love self-help books. I'm reading one right now, but it can't replace Christ. And I think we all have to go through that journey to, you know, figure that out along the way. How has your life been? Because just because you believe in Jesus and have a relationship with Christ doesn't mean that life is easy. Right? Like you're still going to go through it. And I think that that's like a big misconception when people are like, well, like if I just choose them, maybe my life will just be easy. And it's not. How has your life differed as far as like the challenges? Have they been harder challenges or have the challenges seemed easier because now you have something to go back to?
Yeah. I think, well, I would say the challenges are easier because I'm anchored in something that is much more powerful, right? And I think that has been something that I've realized that I think even before I dealt with challenges pretty well, like very like even keel. Kind of like, I guess the old mindset would be like very stoic, just very like, all right, accept what is happening and just find a new solution, you know? But I think now how I think about it just through the lens of Christ is like, yeah, like maybe that door closed or maybe that opportunity didn't happen because it wasn't meant to be. And I think now when I deal with like even business stuff, right? Like, cause even right after New York, like, yo, like I was not a creator or an influencer that a lot of brands wanted to work with.
Yeah.
So the stress of finances, right? Like the stress of a business, you're like, oh my God, like, yo, how am I going to pay for my mortgage? How am I going to pay for my living? How am I going to pay for my team? All these things. Like, I think from a fleshly perspective, it's a very common thing to think about, to worry about. But then I started thinking about Andrew, and I'm like, which is a disciple of Christ, and I'm like, how does it help me to be anxious about these things, right? And obviously, like in the book of Matthew, like the Lord says, like if your heavenly Father allows these birds to eat, allow all these things to happen in this earth, like, do you not think that you're going to be fine as well? And I thought about that. I'm like, damn, me stressing and being anxious and being upset that I'm not getting these opportunities oh my God, like I might not be able to pay for rent or I might not be able to pay for food. Like it's not really serving me. So I started to just like fully like let go and just not worry about these things that are outside of my control. And I'm not saying like just like I'm home just like doing nothing and just saying like the Lord's gonna provide. It's like,
Yeah.
no, there's like a level of faith, but then there's a level of action that one needs to still take, right? And part of that action for me was like, all right, like I can't sit here and dwell about me making this mistake forever. So like, what does that look like to get back on the horse, to get back on your feet and just say like, let's just start back up. Like so many people were shocked that they're like, Matt, like if that happened to me, like I would maybe quit content or I would like never posted a video again. I'm like, if you guys understand that I'm so flawed, like
Yeah.
that is just like a moment that I'm just exposing that to the world. But like, I'm so imperfect. Like I've done worse things than bring 2 e-bikes on the course and filmed content, Kristen. You know what I'm saying? And I think to answer your question, I think there's this overarching piece I have. And so much of that comes through the Lord. And it's realizing that like I could do nothing good or bad on this earth besides just being a follower of Christ. That there's nothing from a worldly perspective that I can do well or bad. But if I actually just live through being a disciple of Christ, like that's all that matters. And like that level of peace, I think helps me realize that like, why be stressed or why try to take full control of these things of the world? And that's allowed me to just have an inner peace where it's like, yeah, like I might have a slow month, but like I'm not gonna like over stress myself or get anxious about it. It's like, no, like let
God's got me.
100%.
Yeah.
And like for those first 2 quarters, even of this year, I'm like, yeah, like I'm looking at it, I'm like,
You're like, God, you got me.
I'm
right?
like, God, you got me, right? Because like my accountant sent me my P&L and I'm like, I'm not making that much money. But then it's funny how the Lord works. It's like, yeah, then he still provides opportunities that, you know, that then can provide for me, right?
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so funny because it'd be so easy for my flesh to be like, oh my God, like, damn, like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not working with any shoe brand or I'm not working with any of these brands that I typically work with that would pay me dollars to do stuff. And I'm like, damn, like, what? Maybe I have to get a job,
Yeah.
you know? And I think often about that of just like how the Lord still provides even when we don't realize. And sometimes it's not in the thing that we think, right? And that has been the biggest eye opener for me too, of just like thinking about content. It's like, yeah, like what if running gets taken away from you? Like, what would you do? Like, can you still be a creator and not run? Like, could you build your brand outside of running? And I just thought of that as well, of like what that looks like, because maybe that season, if that was to end for me, would I be okay with that? And I think those were questions I was asking myself. And I think truly being okay with that was also what allowed me to be at peace. Is that like, if I never ran a marathon again, I think I would be okay. I would find something else like golf or
yeah, no, for sure.
cooking.
That's so funny. You're just like a walking testimony whenever I see you, because I know Vanessa gave it to you, but I'm like nothing, because you've impacted so many people in so many different ways, but you've impacted my sister and I just in the power of prayer. And we don't take any like credit for this, because this was absolutely Jesus. But in the amount of time that we like met you, we knew Anthony, and we knew Anthony was like, you know, with our church community and hanging out and stuff. And we're like, but what about Matt? You know? And we had Vanessa wrote your name down and then wrote about your identity, right? And on a sticky note. And we have a little prayer board
You guys are the
at
best.
home. And we, of course, we you know this now, so we gave you the sticky note. But we prayed over you over the last year. And when that happened, the whole transition, and to watch you navigate that, I was like, because like, yes, we have our relationship with Jesus, and like, yes, we read our own Bibles, and yes, but then you see like God actually working. I was like, oh, he's real, you know? And it's just like, every time I see you, I'm like, dang, like God is so good. And he is moving in even mightier ways now. And also too, like I've also known you just dating history wise. And then now I'm like, that's Matt. We're so proud. I had to mention that. But when we chat, I'm like, I'm so proud of the way you lead as a gentleman as well. And so we're just to see you come full circle, and knowing that you're challenging yourself to walk in obedience in so many areas of your life, because it's not easy. It's one thing to say, but it's another thing to do. Like, can you evaluate your business and like be okay with letting that go if it did end? Like, who asks themselves that question?
Yeah.
It's truly trying to walk in obedience, like, can you lead in relationships within your own family well, right? Within your future spouse well, right? And all of that is so challenging. And just to kind of to watch you navigate that just as your friend and as a big sis, I've just been, I can't be more proud of you. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think of, just Forrest Frank's success and how he gave up what he had. It's almost like that meme that's gone around on Instagram, and it's like a little girl holding her bear, like she doesn't want to give it to Jesus, and like Jesus has like this huge bear to give to her, like, will you just give me?
This meme.
No, I have to find it and send it to you.
Yeah.
But she's like holding it, like, no, I don't want to give up my bear, and it's like this tiny little bear, and he has like this huge bear for her. And I kind of picture that with this season of your life and what can happen when you walk in obedience, similar to your mentor in Korea.
Yeah.
And what he's done, and also to always know that it wasn't within your own strength, is huge.
Yeah.
Because it's like inexplainable. I think about my own business, and we'll wrap up here soon, but I think about my own business. And when I was making the transition into lending, because I was a speech therapist before. So my first year into lending, it was a transition between speech therapy and some lending income. But there's obviously that point of no return, right? Where you have to like make a decision of like you're going all in. And when I look back at what I made as a speech therapist that last year, I was like, and I was living in Austin, and I'm like, how did I live off of that? Like, how did I pay my bills? Like, I remember like not having enough money for rent, and like, how did I pay my bills? Like, how did I like feed myself rice and beans? Like, I don't know. Like, if you were to just take what I made and multiplied my rent, like that's really what I'm like. My rent was my check for the year, my W-2. And I'm like, God, like, I don't know how I got out of that season and then how business is now. But when you just continue to like sell out to Jesus and walk in obedience, like, and it's not, you don't do it just for the riches of the world, but like, it's just a principle of Christ, But so I'm really excited for you and what's to come over this next season. Do you have any last thoughts?
You're the best.
Or
I just want to say really quick, I just want to give you and your sister flowers because I think, one, you guys have been such good shepherds. And I think about the Great Commission in Matthew 28:19 about like the goal as a disciple is to make more disciples. And I feel like the way that you guys carry yourself and the way you live speaks of volumes to that. And like, I think you guys have helped me so much in just like shepherding me, even being like, bro, you coming to church? And I'm like, yes. So I think I just want to give you guys flowers. Like, you guys have been such a massive part of even like my discipline from like even going to church. Like, that's helped me so much. Like, I think for a lot of people, when they want to find a church, it can be a little lonely, and sometimes it could be intimidating to go somewhere when you like don't know anyone. And I think you guys like are so welcoming, and I think I just have a lot of love for you guys for that. And also like even just praying over people, like I think you guys have taught me like the power of that and like what that could look like when like it's truly selfless. It's like that sticky note, and even Vanessa wrote me this little letter, and I was like, this note, and I'm like, damn, sometimes I'd be looking back at that. I just like, it's in one of these it's in a book that's next to my nightstand. And sometimes if I'm just like having like a day, I'm like, I just like at nighttime, I'll just read that. And I think to myself often of like, damn, like that's what it's like to be a true disciple. And when you do have that kind of relationship, to then think about that for other people, like when I'm ever down and out, sometimes I just read that and I just think like, dang, a year ago, I was like just thinking so differently. And both of you guys have just been such a massive part of me just developing that relationship. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Well, thank you for saying that. I feel like, we love on everybody.
Correct.
Right? But you have to be, what's that line? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink,
Yeah.
And so I feel like we do that for so many people, but it's up to you, if you accept that love,
100%.
and come around. But now we have a whole crew.
I know. Now, we have a whole row.
It's so much fun.
It really is. It's a great crew.
So much fun. Yeah. But so excited for what's to come. And I don't know, we'll have to have you on in a year and see what God does.
I love that. Let's do that. We'll run it back.
Okay.